Planning board meeting of May 21st. This meeting's being recorded.
Motion on the minutes?
We got a motion on the approval of the previous minutes.
I'll move.
Second by John, moved by Pat. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 4 in favor, 1 abstention.
Yep, thanks, babe.
I'm going to jump right to the 81Ps.
There's none.
All right, thank you.
Oh, there is
We
no-
have one.
You got one now.
This is this is 22 Congress Terrace, went before the ZBA. It was a 22+ thousand square foot parcel with a single house and a big area over in here. We subdivided it to create one conforming lot and then one lot of 11,632 square feet. Took it to the ZBA for a variance. They gave us the variance on area. It has all the necessary frontage, it meets this lot shape factor. So they granted the variance and they gave us a condition that they could only construct a 3-bedroom house with no more than 2,000 square feet.
Motion.
Move to sign the 81P. Seconded by John. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous of 5.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the extension of
There you go.
Denaya Crossing. Mike, you gonna just address that? There's nobody, Bob, are you gonna do anything about your, no?
No.
That was not, no.
Yeah, they just submitted a letter for the retaining walls, the extension up to,
Right, and they gave us a letter.
To January 31st?
no, to July, I believe, July 15th.
Okay.
Back in January, they submitted a similar letter to the board.
How many extensions on the walls have we given?
We haven't, this is the first one, and,
Okay, I'll make a motion.
yeah, it's, with the weather that we've had.
Not much you can do.
Any problems, you think, Mike?
With Grantham.
No, I know, no, you haven't had any problems up there with them or anything, other than the normal.
I would love to see the walls get built.
I would too, but like
I'd
I
love to
say,
see
with the
them
weather
get-
we've had, I can understand.
Yeah, but if they followed the plan, theoretically, they've already been built.
It's been moved by, yeah, right. Moved by Pat,
I'll second that.
seconded by Lena. Any further discussion on granting this extension? Not all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of 5. Okay, we've got a public hearing,
You read the notice?
yes, please.
Milford Planning Board, notice of public hearing on Tuesday, May 21st, 2019, in Room 3 of the Milford Town Hall, 52 Main Street. The Milford Planning Board will, at the times designated, conduct public hearings regarding the following. At 7:02 PM, application of Middle School East LLC for a special permit to construct a 38 dwelling unit, limited over 55 residential use, and associated parking on a 70,400 square foot parcel at 45 Main Street, Milford, Mass. Assessors map 41, lot 7A. It's in an RA and a CB zoning district. The full application and/or maps of the above items are available for public inspection Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. at the Office of Planning and Engineering, Town Hall, 52 Main Street, Milford, Mass. Interested parties may express their views at the above scheduled hearings. This was published on 5/7 and 5/14 in the Milford Daily News. Which do you prefer, Mr. Chairman? Do you want me to read my report or just have them go ahead and do their presentation?
Have them do the presentation.
Mark Allen Engineering, here representing Kevin Loverser, and Loverser Building Corp., Loverser Pereira. We're here before you, as Larry said, to show you the site plans for 45 Main Street, former Middle School East. And we have a handout I'd like to give as we talk. The architectural renderings that you see up on the boards are just kind of in small form here.
These were the same that you handed to us last meeting, Larry?
Yes, I think so, right? This is what you'd pre-submitted?
Yes.
Yes.
This gives you a 3D view of what's going to be going on.
Thank you.
A little bit easier than a two-dimensional black and white.
I agree.
So as you know, this zone got rezoned to accommodate over 55 dwelling units, and we have worked with the architects over the past 6 months to come up with a scenario where 38 units will be able to be put into a combination of the old school and a new 4-story addition to the old school. The old school will remain in its current position, and then the old gymnasium, if you will, that extension is all to be torn down. The new footprint is actually going to be smaller in square footage than the gymnasium was. So that's actually going to be a net reduction in overall lot coverage, if you will, as far as impervious area goes. You'll notice there's a landscape buffer along Sumner Streets and along Winter Streets. We're going to close up the 85-foot-long curb opening along Winter Street and make 2 defined curb cuts along there. The parking is, for the 38 units, we have 68 spaces. It's about 1.75 spaces per unit. And we've actually done a trip generation, a little bit of a trip generation analysis between the previous use and the current use. As you know, I think the latest, or the last folks to use the school was an 8th grade class of about 300 students. And the Massachusetts ITE trip generation shows that generates usually about 450 cars per day. And with 38 units of over 55 housing, it's down to about 250 trips per day. So we're asking from a formal traffic investigation. We knew that the use was going to be less intense than the previous use. We did get some letters back from various town boards, the sewer commission, the fire, and Mike Dean as well. I want to kind of go through a couple of the minor changes we went through with Mark Nelson over the last 24 to 48 hours. As far as access goes, he just wanted to make sure that the new 42-foot vehicle that they have can get into both the lower and upper sides of the building. And I sent him an email this afternoon with this plan that I'm going to hand out as well. And he was comfortable with the turning radii, with the adjustments that we've made. So I just want to hand this out to you. This is new.
Fire and water, not sewer.
So what I wanted to do is just kind of highlight in yellow what we call the WB40. Basically, it's about a 42-foot-long vehicle and how it gets in and out, and that's highlighted in yellow at the 3 different curb cut locations. We did eliminate the 2-foot radii, the old granite style that you typically see along Sumner and Winter Streets today, and we put in a more modern curb radii to adjust for the larger vehicles. And those are shown in green. The one additional change we made was we're eliminating a parking spot that is closest to the church parking lot. And that's also highlighted in green, just so that that truck can make that second access off of Winter Street into the parking lot. We're also going to be adding a little bit of an island as well, just to give some delineation between church parking and apartment parking. We're going to extend that, that green space along those 2 parking stalls, so just to give it a more defined area. We did run the sewer questions by the sewer board yesterday, and tonight they're actually meeting. They already voted. Oh, they already voted, okay. They did vote to grant us the 6-inch sewer connection. They did ask that we put a doghouse-style manhole in Sumner Street, just to have a good, clean inspection for it. But they did grant that approval.
So they're going to forward a letter, hopefully,
Yeah.
within our lifetime.
Yeah. And, you know, the standard access points, it's topographically a little bit challenging, not to bore you, but there is an upper level that's associated with the existing school, and then the newer portion along Sumner Street has more of a basement level and a 4 stories above that. But from the street, you can see from the renderings, it really keeps the character of the old school. And the architecture with the materials and the size and the shape and the form, kind of keeping in touch with the existing architecture.
I taught in that school for 10 years, so it's a nice change.
Yes.
Your library's a unit, you wanna move in? Huh? Your library's gonna be a unit now. What unit number? 103?
37.
37, there you go. There's your new address, Lena.
One other little intricate, just to know, the basement level of the old school will not be used for residences. It just schematically didn't work out interior-wise, sunlight-wise,
Well, that's
parking-wise.
interesting.
Yeah, so that will just be storage space, a true basement. So the units will start at the first floor and go up.
Many of the walls down there are over 3 feet thick.
Yeah.
You what?
They're over 3 feet thick.
Right.
So we just really,
Can't,
no,
no, that's
so
impossible.
we just decided not to battle that.
That'll be storage for the individual
That's
units.
what we're gonna, you know, completely
Yeah.
clean it up and then build storage down there. And the elevator will obviously go down, will service that level too.
Yeah.
It's a new elevator. too.
Yeah,
If the parking area overflows, if you fill, if it gets filled, where do cars go?
Yeah, like you say, we don't anticipate it. We've done a bunch of studies even before town meeting about, with other over 55 apartment buildings, even, you know, non-age restricted apartment buildings. We don't think that that'll be the case, John. It's just, you know, I think we're more worried about the church overflowing than
Right.
than the.
That was my question.
Right.
How do you keep the church members from parking in that parking area?
Yeah, I mean, there's gonna be signage, obviously, you know, parking for residents only, and the church has their parking lot for their.
If I could just make a suggestion in theory on that. If you stripe yours yellow, which it appears that that's the color you've chosen, I believe in one of these you show it, I think they have a handful, maybe 6.
Correct, yeah.
I think if you offer to paint those white,
Right,
and I only say this because now you have a color distinction.
right, right.
And, you know, obviously, if we have 2 different colors, we would like to think that, gee, that could represent 2 different.
Uses. Yeah.
Correct. So,
Good point.
I'm just wondering, and again,
yeah, no,
I think for the 6,
Small, it's a small cost.
for the couple of bucks it's gonna cost you, I think that may go a long way in trying to delineate, you know.
Absolutely.
From a practical standpoint, to the extent that many of the residents may be home during the time the church has services or whatever, there's going to be parking out there anyway. There won't be many
You're right, Larry,
vacant
but I don't
spots.
want some poor guy who went for a walk or went to get a donut or went to do whatever, come back and say, oh my God, someone took my parking spot. I mean, the other thing you could theoretically do, but again, I think this becomes cumbersome, is start to number your spots.
Yeah.
You start doing that, it also gives
That's a great idea.
vindication that,
That's a great idea.
gee, this means something.
right.
But then you may have an assignment problem, okay, your spot's 40 and 42, and again, I don't want to tell you how to run your business, but if
telling you.
it becomes, no, if it becomes an issue, another way to theoretically resolve it is you're gonna have to associate it with a number.
I like the numbers. I
Well,
think-
they're going to have to do that with the garages anyway to
Well, the
assign
garages is a
with
different
the
entity.
units, but
Correct, yeah. the
those are
garages,
different. yeah.
There's 9 individual garage door, you know, full garage spaces that will be rented with units, if I'm not mistaken. So if you rent a certain unit and you want a garage spot,
I thought I saw that.
Actually have a closed
That's
garage.
great.
I'm sure it's an extra value.
absolutely. And then on the upper lot,
He's gonna get one.
we're
Lena
gonna,
wants
You
one.
should get one.
Does one come for
I
the
have one
37?
question. As a
Just one?
woman, I have one question. Most of the people that move into these housing, the elderly housing, they have to leave their apartment, go across the street to do their laundry.
Not here.
Are you having a laundry room?
Laundry in every
Every-
apartment.
You didn't look
Laundry
at
in
the
every
design?
apartment.
Yeah.
I'm moving in.
Yeah.
She obviously didn't look at
No,
the
she
Oh, okay.
I wasn't here last
Okay.
week.
Okay.
so with that, I don't know if Kevin wants to
No,
speak to more of this.
I mean, I hope that what you guys see here in the plans looks real close to what we came here, you know, even originally when we didn't know what we were doing.
Love it.
It absolutely took a lot more time than we anticipated. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in that old building.
I know.
you taught there, but the most asbestos is in the ceiling in the cafeteria,
Yeah.
right over all the kids' tables, so it's pretty challenging stuff. So there was a lot of structural stuff to really work around to make sure that we could make the rooms work and we could do the connection. So it did take us a little bit longer, but a couple of things that really did come out of that were realizing that we didn't want to be in the basement, so we think that actually helped us work out that back parking lot a little bit, right, Mark? Through talking to a lot of people, we then realized we really should try to introduce as much covered parking as we can, so we think we did the best we could without messing up the flow of the parking lot.
We have full ADA access to both floors through the, whether it be through the switchback on the main street.
We have 3 entrance points.
We have 3 entrance points, all of which are ADA compliant. But the nice part is gonna be, I don't know if you can see it on your sheet, but the actual access to the old building where the new building meets is really gonna be a sort of a focal point architecturally and landscape-wise.
That's right on the main street, you're
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they can't enter that,
Yes,
They
you
can.
They
Yeah,
can,
absolutely
Oh, yeah,
can.
yeah, I'm doing a whole ADA ramp on
you're
that side
doing
too.
that? Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
wow.
The only thing I was, looking at the plans was, the access to the elevators as far as moving vehicles or something that doesn't seem to flow that well there.
For internal
No.
elevator
If
use?
somebody's moving in,
Oh, I see.
the moving truck, it's not that easy.
Yeah, we did widen that aisle from 24 to 28 feet obviously for the fire and emergency vehicles, but also for the garage spaces. So there is a little extra space to maneuver inside.
Don't forget, you can theoretically park on Sumner Street and Winter Street.
Yeah, but even then, you're coming in through,
You ever watch the movies in the city?
yeah.
I'm just saying, though, I mean, it's,
No, I just,
Even in our new houses, baby, I mean, they, literally, the lawns are all perfectly manicured and planted, and they just drive up on the front lawn and sink in a foot and say, hey, you
Yeah,
fix it when we're
awful.
done. It's- I mean,
no, I know, I had seen it on I seen a school that was done for apartments, and
Yep.
they did have it so the elevator was fairly
accessible.
accessible for the movers.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we had here too was
fact,
that
they had
because we were
2
working with the
elevators.
old building and the new building, we were trying our best to really keep the elevator as centrally located
Mm-hmm.
as possible in the building. So it really ends up being located kind of in the inner kink
Yeah.
of where the 2 buildings
No,
come
I
into
see
play,
what it
so.
was, yeah.
Is that in the same area,
Oh.
area that the
It's in
old
the
one?
same area, Lena, but it's not the exact
Yeah,
location.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
Now,
it
the
goes up,
grading
down.
of the parking
That's all
lot-
it's- Yeah.
The grading in the parking lot in the back, you're using the garage walls as a
Foundation
retaining wall.
Correct, exactly right.
Yep,
Do you have the
Doing
site
that,
plans?
We do.
Yeah, that was a water,
yeah,
that was a water catch-all.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we're kind of
That's why
taking
the
the
garage
pressure off
space
that by
makes
filling
perfect
that in.
sense.
Yeah,
There'll be one tall garage.
So as you know, topographically, that was just a water catch. So we're gonna actually flatten that out by bringing in fill and using the back edge of the garages as a retaining wall, as an 8-foot retaining wall, all along the rear of those 9 garage spaces, and then the retaining wall will return around here to give daylight to the bottom story apartments. But this will all be very flat up against the building.
just something I had.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Joe?
I have a couple.
So what's better, living on the first floor or the second floor?
The fourth.
I think the 4th.
That way you could see what's going on at Fino.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
And if there's any line backed up at Dunkin' Donuts.
I know it.
You wanna just touch upon your request for waivers, please?
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost was the traffic waiver. We didn't feel as if a full traffic analysis was warranted, just based on the 2 use changes from a 300-student middle school to a 38-unit. And we kind of supported that with some documentation I have tonight, just the trip generation from the Institute ITE. And
Yeah, you touched upon that.
Yeah, so it's about half of what. the school-
No, that one you touched upon, but the other 2
Yeah.
you didn't really touch
Oh, okay.
upon, that's why.
The other 2 waivers, one of which was the retaining wall itself. That is structural in nature, and the architects, once we get our site plan set, will be more than happy, they have to do it anyway for the building permits, so that full retaining wall will be designed in the future. through Kevin's architect, HPA Design, which is right across the street, so.
Speaking of that, what do you guys think of that building? We've done that since the last time I saw you.
Let's not change the
Hey,
subject.
well,
You know what? I'm gonna start, I'm gonna delve deeper
Are you
now.
kidding me?
You may not want to bring that up, so.
It looks very nice.
Thank you.
The other waiver, if you remind me, Pat?
Landscape buffer
Landscape
reduction.
buffer, yes. It's just, it was a pre-existing asphalt parking lot. We're doing the best we can with the numbers we can. We just can't meet the code since we're a pre-existing non-conforming use. We did provide landscaping along both Winter Street and Sumner Street from what was previously there. We just can't meet today's standards.
What I'd like to see you do then, and touch upon that, is I think that you had put down, if I recall correctly, on the trees, I think you would put down 2-inch caliper trees.
Yes.
So I'm willing to play with you a little on that.
Okay.
But you need to, let's improve the caliber of the trees.
Sure.
Because if you're looking for the waiver, let's try to make the site, you know, as clean and ready to go as possible. And 2-inch, we run the threat of it not surviving, and that to me was,
Yep.
you know, so I'm willing to work with you, but
Yeah.
you need to come a little better with the trees. A 2-inch tree, you might as well tell me you planted an acorn and you're hoping for the best. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
I'm sure you're putting a ton of money. The couple of trees aren't gonna kill you, that's all I'm
I truthfully
saying.
didn't even see that diameter, and I'll do whatever we need to do in the landscape, because my intention is to make it look
Yeah.
Precisely, but I think
$10
that
million building when we're done, so, I mean,
And I'd like to see it, you know, I'd like to see the trees planted so that they're at a survival. I'm not asking you to transplant trees and have trees that are, you know, 100 feet tall to begin with. That's all I'm asking
that's-
for, but.
We don't want something that's gonna grow and start tearing up your
Up the
asphalt, your
sidewalk.
parking, and,
No, but if you notice where you
Anyway.
put the placement of the trees, I don't think that's gonna be, I don't think that's gonna be an issue, but I'm looking for the higher survivability of the trees so that, you know, when the site's complete, it's gonna look move-in ready, so to speak. That's
So
all.
3.5 inch caliper.
At least 4. Don't be fresh. 4.
Four's tough to plant.
yeah.
You have less of survival rate with a 4 than you would with a smaller tree. That's plant,
Yeah.
yeah.
The thing with the tree, the 2-inch will survive.
2.5 are
The two
usually.
and a half just takes an extra year, 2 years to start growing. It's there, it survives, it does well, but it just doesn't grow that
Do a
fast.
3 then.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Not that I'm a botanist, but I just, putting them in other subdivisions, I put in the 2-inch caliper, 2.5-inch caliper, and it just takes a
Forever.
longer time for
Yeah.
them to start the growth rate. Yeah. Anything else, Pat?
I was just curious if they addressed Mike's concerns.
Yeah, Mike had a couple of concerns that you can speak to.
we added the drainage. Right?
Yeah.
Mike?
Sure, the
Is he
first
boycotting
comment,
us tonight?
number one,
Yeah.
was in reference to the 2-foot curb, radius curb, returns at the access. And they changed that in this, sketch that had come in. Because that was also referenced in, that was one of the, deputy's chief concerns as well. So it looks like they've opened them up and addressed that with this sketch that I. The grade and drainage plan, I haven't seen that revised, that's just a matter of cleaning up some contours, in my opinion, just the proposed contours and the existing contours. Looks like they were trimmed or.
We trim them out just for visual, it gets messy, but we add them back in.
This discharge statement needs to be signed by the professional engineer, that's just part of the paperwork that comes in for all the stormwater. And then in terms of stormwater, I thought that with this size development, that there was opportunity to increase the recharge from the roofs. And I received a sketch to that effect just this afternoon, I haven't been able to look at all the calculations, but I would say that.
What are you gonna recapture?
Yeah, so like Mike had indicated, we captured the new roof, and we were able to infiltrate that in the
Thanks.
underneath the parking.
Yeah, that was one thing I did look at the plans, and I thought the amount of chambers for the size project was a little
Correct.
low, yeah.
So they were only shown in one spot, and I thought they were
Okay.
And put enough on the sides, and for the opportunity to, this size project, we definitely have the opportunity to increase the recharge, which is important in this area. So that sketch that I haven't really vetted yet shows probably 7 times, seven
Yeah.
or 8 times. I don't even know I don't know if you changed the size of them, the height of them.
We went to the 18-inch,
Right,
42.
So they're even higher than the
Yeah.
ones that were spec'd out originally, so you have about 7 to 8 times the number, I think, 7 times the number that was shown originally.
Yeah.
And now they're higher, so, we're getting there, so,
And we did run some calculations, just, it was so fast, but
yeah.
the red is gonna be the change, the new numbers, so the peak flow has changed by, a couple of tenths.
That is a gravelly area there too.
Well, yeah, we're in that, we're
Yeah.
in that groundwater protection, we're right on the edge of the groundwater
Yeah.
protection, and we're actually in a wellhead protection zone too,
Yeah.
there, so all
Great.
associated with shallow
Wow.
water. So that's another reason why, it's pretty important.
Good.
When you have the opportunity, whether it's redevelopment or not. And by default, by putting those chambers in, then you're gonna decrease the pre and post the peak flow rates.
Just as a point of clarification, the zoning water resource, WR1 zone, only goes as far as the street in terms of coming west towards the site. But the geological makeup, so to speak, it is in the wellhead protection zone, it is in the aquifer, so.
When we did the zoning for the water protection, we had to stop it somewhere. And
Exactly.
That's what we did, so,
And then my third comment was, they had, Mark had mentioned it, is the retaining wall, and I just wanted to bring that forward to the planning board. That, usually you guys are looking for those to be designed, so I just wanted to bring that forward in my report to you guys. That they were asking for a waiver not to supply the retaining wall design through site plan. And then number 6 is in reference to the traffic generation. I thought that if they added the trip generation for this use and compared it to a school activity that
What do
was
you-
taking
yeah.
place, it would pan out, because that wasn't on there at all in the site plan, so I believe that's gonna be added.
Yeah, we did.
okay. Yes, Larry?
Yeah, I guess in terms of the 3 waivers, the third one about reducing the landscape buffer, the board at site plan review has typically done that in these types of redevelopment situations where the areas that we're looking at had been entirely paved to begin with. So that's a reasonable thing to approve.
He's adding grass, it wasn't any before.
Yeah, any additions
Exactly.
is better than what the existing conditions were.
Well, as he said,
And-
he can't meet the standard, he didn't say he wasn't adding anything.
Right,
so.
right. The other one, in terms of waiving the traffic study, again, for redevelopments, and especially where it's an obvious reduction, what the board has typically done is accept a formal letter as a traffic statement, other than just notes on the site plan. So I would think the references that had already been made, if that could just be formalized in a letter to the board, that could be considered appropriate to traffic statement, because the board has done in similar instances for other sites. The only waiver request that I was really concerned about, the same as Mike, was the lack of engineered plans for the retaining wall now as part of your special permit approval. So that would be the only one I would be concerned about.
I think it makes sense the way they.
What's the-
The way they said it.
What's the expectation of the type of wall that you're putting in?
It's gonna be all concrete, Joe, because, the only reason why we
You gonna do
didn't
a
design
cast in
it,
place?
well, it's gonna be part of the garage
So I'm wondering,
structure.
is it gonna be a cast in place wall?
Cast in place, right, with a spread footing, all the rebar,
Then I would be willing to, my feeling is I'd be willing to waive that based on putting that in, that the wall is gonna be that. The issue that we have is when you end up putting in engineered block walls or whatever, we end up with a line on a drawing and no one takes into account that it's a 1-on-12 slope and you don't have that much room. If you're putting a cast in place wall in and you show that as a 12-inch wall on the drawing, then I don't have that much of an issue with the site plan. The only other thing I'd like to see, though, is what your intent would be, just so we have it, in terms of the guardrail mounting on top of that.
Sure.
You should be able to show that regardless of your final design for the wall. But otherwise, I would be comfortable with it.
And the low, we have a small section of that with the guardrail, because the back of the garage.
Yeah,
is
it's not the whole,
allowed.
yeah, right, yeah. And usually, you could just show a section with the plate details and then the spacing, the anticipated spacing for the supports is fine. I just,
It was hard to tell on the renderings, but what's the difference in elevation of the garage roof from the lower level parking to the top of the retaining wall we were just talking about? Do you have a rough,
Give me those 2 points there from, I think we have the elevations from the architect too. From the garage,
the top of the roof at the back of the garage should be what, the west side of the garage roof as it abuts the retaining wall?
I know they did sort of a flat roof, not a pitched roof.
Right.
So they are showing,
That's right.
So I don't remember seeing anything. I was just curious what the drop was gonna be.
I think it's about a 9-foot
Yeah, I thought you
change.
said
It's,
8 or
it's still,
Yeah.
yeah, it's still,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pourable, it's not,
Not those.
whatever
yeah.
that design comes out with, it's
Oh, yeah.
certainly pourable.
Yeah, so inside the garage space to the top of the concrete is 8 feet. So once they put on the decorative stuff out front, and they did a nice job kind of making it look architecturally, not boring, they add another foot or 2 for the ephes.
no, but I'm,
Larry's talking about behind the wall.
yes.
Where our swale is.
You're still gonna need,
So I believe it starts out at about 2 feet of concrete showing, correct? And then as it goes towards our new building, it gets taller.
but you're still gonna need a guardrail along the top of the entire length of the retaining wall.
It's gonna be a
No.
handrail as opposed to a guardrail. So that will, there's actually gonna be,
Well, it's a lawn area now.
yep.
Yeah,
So
there's
all
a
along the
plan,
back here,
yes.
Larry, is only gonna be 10 inches of concrete showing along the back.
But what's the drop from the top down to the roof?
No, there's no drop. It's 10 inches up to the roof.
Correct.
All right, well, that's what I was,
Yeah, so that keeps going higher.
yeah. So that's gonna affect how much guardrail they would need on the top of the
Again,
wall. That's what I
Show
was
the
gonna
guardrail.
Again,
Yeah, the guardrail's gonna be in
Will be
here.
right there.
Well, yes,
Otherwise,
obviously.
it's actually backing right into the garage, Larry, so
That's
there's
what I
no-
was trying to clarify for
Gotcha.
the board.
Yeah.
Joe, anything else? Lena?
Could you just tell me how much, what is it, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom?
There's 20 one-bedroom and 18 two-bedroom.
Okay, that's
Better
what
sign up quickly now.
Okay, we got a letter from the water company. It tells you everything but what we want to know. I take it they're gonna give you the water because you already got an existing,
Already have it.
thing. All the rest of the stuff they want in is, I could care less about. It's nothing to do with us whatsoever. So the water company is all right. This being a public hearing, anybody in the audience have anything to say? Yes, sir. Just
Oh, you did it.
give us your name, address, and
Jamie Wheelock, One Cuniff Ave, and I've been talking about this building for, I don't know, 2 years, and wishing the process was handled differently, and maybe that's water under the bridge at this late date, so whatever. Hey, Patrick, I thought your ideas for the 15-foot buffer or these wider dimension trees was a great idea, though really, I'd love to know if in fact the 15-foot buffer is mathematically impossible or they just don't want to do it. Are we taking their word for it that it can't be done?
Jamie, not to interrupt you, as we look over there now,
Yeah.
the only grass that they have is along Main Street. Everything else is,
If you have
Hold on,
aspirations for a
hold on.
15-foot buffer zone,
I'm just trying to help you answer your question. So when we look over there now, all we see is asphalt, that's all we see. So now, when you look at their plan now, clearly you can see that there's a much larger influx of grass or green space than there was previously. What he said was that he can't hit the requirement. He didn't say he was eliminating the green space. And as of right now, virtually it's eliminated.
I didn't claim that he said any of those things, and I acknowledge that it's all asphalt. The only point I'm making is, has the town double-checked that mathematically he can't actually go to the buffer, the landscape buffer aspirations that the town has set under normal conditions? I'm not denying the fact that it's all asphalt now, so less than 15 is more than now, but possibly he could just conform to the 15, which the town, in general, sets as a goal.
The town requires 24 feet drive aisle behind parking spaces. The parking spaces that the town is expecting to see is what they're showing on the plan. So when you do that, it's impossible to put a full 15-foot planter strip along that side of the
Excellent.
property.
In that case, the idea of slightly hardier trees sounds like a reasonable bargain. Also, it's too bad that the RFP that got this whole process started was as poorly drafted and only contained toothless and non-binding language. But it's gotten us to here, and point I'm trying to get to is, in the RFP was some vague aspirations for a community room, which that itself wasn't even defined, plus it was non-binding. In this plan, he's conveniently included a community room, which again, I don't know if he means for the members who reside in the building, or if it will be available to the community to use as non-residents. The principle being, this used to be a municipal property that we've unloaded, and it
Okay,
would have
but
been
can I don't mean to
dynamite.
stop you again, but that has nothing to do with what, you want to talk about something that the selectmen put out in the road, or out in the streets, opened it up to a bunch of bidders. I think Kevin was the only bidder. We can't, that's water under the bridge. That has nothing to do with this application. And my 2-cent opinion, and I'm not gonna ask him, the community room, I'm assuming, is probably for his residents. That's what I would assume,
I believe you.
you know, because that would make perfect sense.
I just wanted
It's
to
no
draw-
longer a municipal building. As soon as they cash the check, it was his building. The
And-
town doesn't own it.
And I just wanted to draw attention to how poorly drafted the
But
RFP
that
is.
has nothing to do with us,
It's
and
got
has nothing to do with the
the-
applicant. I'm not to be a
I'm
smart
sorry,
ass.
I'm
but
sorry
we-
I've taken up 4 minutes of your time.
I'm not gonna put an applicant on the spot for something that he had nothing to do with, other than the fact that he was the successful bidder of the
Yes.
project. That's it. It's not fair to him to start talking about views on an RFQ or an RFP that has nothing to do with him. He didn't write it, he just filled it out.
Anyhow, I just wanted to make that public statement about what a shame it was that that process
Next question.
was handled as
Okay.
badly as it was. And I did want to stick up for the buffer, but you guys have reached a compromise. So basically, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that being said about the public building, a couple of, I think, really important things that we've done since we purchased the property was the state police, the K-9 division, and the town police department have been in that building now for months, practicing, active shooters in school buildings. The other thing that was a really big deal was the fire chief had asked us to have access to the building for a couple of weeks. Most of his department did not have a lot of familiarity with the building, and they didn't give them access to the building to learn it at all, and they used it for a tremendous training opportunity on how to rescue firefighters that get lost and stuck in a fire in a building that they're not aware of, so I thought that was a pretty neat thing that they did.
I remember you mentioned that to us before, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah,
know we're not gonna-
it went well, huh?
Yes, it really did. Well, so well that the state police started showing up to K-9, but
That's
it was a great thing, so it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
I figured we might as well tackle that.
We're gonna continue the,
Well, that's what was suggested by Larry.
yeah.
Well, I know
Yeah, we
because it's
just-
back and forth, but my
we
question was to talk about the waiver requests.
Right,
Was my question.
yeah, we'll take motions on the,
Yeah, my only suggestion was to
because you'll
not,
need that to get a building permit, you'll need
Yeah,
a
it's part of the
waiver.
building, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna close the public hearing. I just thought it'd be best to give them some direction, at least on the request for waivers. That's all.
No, definitely, because like I say,
And then
for the
continue the
waiver, to
meeting.
get a building permit, he needs a waiver.
That's all I was
he needs
asking.
the waivers, so. I'll take
With
a
that,
motion.
I'll take a motion to grant the 3 specified waivers. With the first one, I think Joe wanted something.
I want a statement on it that the intent is for that to be cast in place concrete walls and to provide a detail for the guardrail connection into the wall is part of this submittal.
Yep.
And then finalized
So
afterwards.
at the next,
Yeah, yeah, I can do that.
then the other thing is, I think Larry also wanted you to submit, as part of the application,
A letter
The
of,
letter of support that you had spoke of in terms of the traffic, no, the traffic.
I have the statement with us.
So, well, we're gonna continue this anyhow, but I'm trying to help you at least with the waivers, that's all, so I'll make the motion.
and, yeah, with your trees, just the
Well,
letter.
no, that's, yeah, he's gonna do
Statement.
That
trees.
wasn't a
Okay,
waiver.
That wasn't a waiver,
Well,
so.
that-
Oh, no.
That was
okay.
part of the
was
reduced
part of it.
landscape buffer.
That was,
Well, it
no,
was
that
kind
was
of.
part of
All right,
reducing,
yeah,
yes.
sure, okay, we can do that.
Okay.
Provided that the Counselor or tree gets.
It's been moved to grant the tree waivers. I hear a second. Seconded by John Cook. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous of 5.
And then I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing
Okay, till,
till,
June 4th, because they've got
June
much of the
4th.
stuff ready, so we should be ready.
Yeah, I'll go with that too.
make a motion to June 4th.
okay, John, seconded by John Cook. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous of 5. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
All right, yeah, talk tomorrow.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to adjourn, unless there's something else.
Adjourn.
Motion to adjourn,
Second.
seconded by Lena. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
None.
Unanimous of 5.